Hello, my loves. Thank you so much for being on my channel. For those of you that have never seen me before, my name is Ellie Frost, and here we are radically and rapidly healing from narcissistic abuse cycles, the after effects of that, the PTSD, the trauma, and coming into our own sovereignty, our authentic power, and our most fulfilling lives, right? I use a multidimensional approach, which means that it's energetic, spiritual. We talk about psychology, personal development, growth, but I kind of I take the complexity out of that, integrate different modalities so that you have a very fast and very clear way forward, right? And also I'm a channel, I'm a psychic channel, and I elevate your consciousness. I hold high level conversations that are designed to elevate your consciousness, which will bring you into a higher awareness and make it a lot easier for you to see the truth and let go of old attachments and enmeshments, things that are holding you back from being your true self and living in a fulfilled, happy life. Yeah? No matter what you've been through, no matter how old you are, no matter how hard it seems. So I wanted to talk today about detaching from the narcissist and working through grief. I feel like a lot of the healing process in narcissistic abuse recovery is actually understanding the grief process that is involved in that. Once we get out of reaction, right? So I've talked a lot on this channel, and there's lots of tools here, lots of videos here on coming into regulation, healing our PTSD, coming into our body, coming into our awareness, how to use your intuition and actually be conscious of what's going on rather than reactive. Because in these abuse cycles, what the narcissist wants to do is keep you in a constant trauma response so that you don't think straight and you're just obsessed with what they're doing, what's going to happen next, living in fear, living in lack, living in scarcity, and not really one, having a clear vision for your future and what you want, two, being able to access your intuition and personal power, and three, making sort of decisions on what you want in your life. But as you do come into that awareness, right, and if you're going through my videos here, I'm seeing so many beautiful comments about how people are just feeling so healed from going through the content, which is so awesome. What you'll find is there's a natural grief process. So in order to detach, it is like the knowing the truth. I've got lots of things on here about knowing the truth about what narcissism is, what's really happened to you, what's going on with you, right? But when you do know that, then we start to detach because we can think clearly. And as we detach, there's quite a lot of grief involved. And I'm really good at accelerating this. So with my private clients, I literally I help bring on the grief process for them so they can purge it fast, right? And in my program Sovereign, which is reopening in May, so there's some energy work on grief specifically. Yeah, I talk a lot about forgiveness and love on this channel as well. There's lots of great tools, but the grieving process in narcissistic abuse, like a lot of other things, is very unique because we're not only it's an interesting one. We tend to need to grieve the person we were before that no longer exists, right? Because when you're with a narcissist, you literally become shelled out. You're not in your, you can't be with a narcissist and be authentic because you basically have to be what they need you to be. And if you don't, you'll pay the price and you'll get, more of this situation. So you start handing over your resources, you start losing your values, your sense of self, your identity, dropping your boundaries and standards in life, often your dreams, often a clear vision for your future, what you're meant to do in your purpose on the planet. So there's a grieving in who we were. There's a grieving in what we didn't have. We actually grieve for the future we didn't have, right? When you get with a narcissist, you were sold a lie, yeah? They love bombed you and they work in the psychic realm. They project an illusion of who they are. And actually, what they really do with that is make you into what they need you to be rather than who you are. So they literally take you away from yourself. But as part of the grieving process, right, we grieve the illusion. We grieve the person we thought we were with. We grieve the loss of a future that we thought we were going to have, right? The narcissist will lie completely based on what you really wanted. So you'll grieve the romance that you thought you were getting into. You'll grieve the story that you thought you had. In my last romantic relationship, the grief was not just that person not just I had become shelled out and not myself, but like the person that I thought I was with, he didn't exist. It was a complete lie. And I'm sure with the other, well, I know with the other people he was with, he was a different projection. You know, it's so weird when you actually see it for what it is. Yeah, with other women or people, he was a completely different identity. But with me, he was what I needed him to be in order to trick me into becoming what he needed me to be. So you grieve that person. You grieve the things that you agreed on in your future, what you thought your future would be with that person. You lose who you were. You lose the person you thought you were with, and you lose the future you thought you'd have. So there's grief. It doesn't have to take long. It's just an awareness of what's happening to you. I think that really helps. It's the consciousness. And then you can be with it all and moving forward, right? I do not teach people to spend years in healing. I teach you how to heal and move, right, at the same time. And a lot of people don't know they can do that. And you can in my world, right? Which is why things are so fast. Because we're not looking, we're looking to evolve and heal at the same time. Make evolution, healing as part of our evolution, not something we do and wait on, because healing is an ongoing journey, and actually you can be evolving and moving forward as you heal, which is a beautiful thing, right? So there are stages of grief, and you might have heard of them. The first one is anger, and that's when you start waking up and you realize what you've lost. Then you're in denial. Yeah, you just want to go back to the nightmare or the dream. You want to be unconscious. I don't want to see the truth. I don't want to know this is a narcissist. I don't want to see my whole life's a lie. I don't want to see that he's actually lied about everything. This is in my instance, but whatever your story was, right? Everything they told me was a lie, including how he felt about me. Yeah, including how he talks about me and then how he talks about me to other people, the gossip, the backstabbing, the lies he says to other people, to get what he wants out of them, how he paints this relationship. Really, really painful lies, right? So there's anger in that. Then there's denial, because you want to pretend that's not the truth. You want to go back to the illusion they sold you. I want to believe he's who he told me he was. I really want to believe that, right? Then when we really realise that we are detaching and letting go and becoming part of this grief, there's this bartering process, which is where you might feel a lot of shame. I know I did this. He did my ex-romantic partner that was a narcissist did terrible things to me. Like, just such, by the way, you do that with someone spiritual, I would not wish a single bad thing on the planet. And, luckily it's not up to us, because when the divine steps in and karma hits, there is a balance in this universe. So do not think for a minute when you do the work I'm talking about that God does not step in. I absolutely know he does. I've been shown it. And it's not something that we could handle. It's not for us to handle. We're not here to play God. But that people walking around this planet thinking they can treat people with no consequences, especially people here to spread the light. I am telling you for a fact, no, that is not how it works. That is not how it works at all. And they get their karma as soon as you fully detach. Absolutely, completely. No doubt about it. So there is a divine order in this universe, and the more people see it for what it is, the more they'll realise they don't get to go consequence-free. But we've got some education and awareness on this planet to know, because like I teach in a lot of these videos, while we're part of the problem, their karma can't come to them. They've got our spiritual protection around them, right? A lot of people, if you've got in a relationship with a narcissist and you're a light worker, they'd have prayed for someone like you. They're literally refusing their blessing. The divine says, do you want your blessing? Okay, you don't want that, you're trashing that. Do you want to, they'll give them time and then they'll hit them with karma. Because the only way these people will learn is through karma, right? And the goal is awakening. So there is a balance, but that's for another video. So this is a part where we feel a lot of shame after we've gone through the anger, the denial, and now I want to go back to the dream. I just want to be unconscious. I want to believe in what I've lost. We're going through this cycle of grief. And so that's when you might beg to go back. That's when you might beg to go back in the bartering stage of grief, where I did. Someone that absolutely terrorized my life, treated me maliciously, spitefully. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I didn't see it coming with this particular person, because I'd never seen the truth of him. Yeah? I'd never seen it, because I'd never actually walked away. I'd never said, he was wanting to stay in his third party situations, his dishonesty, his deceit, and I was saying that's no longer okay for me. It was never okay in the beginning. There was always an excuse, a lie or whatever, and I drew time on it. And of course, how dare I? How dare I have the right to expect authenticity, integrity and truth? How dare I have the right to want to be of any value and not be completely devalued, right, the whole time? So there's a punishment the narcissist would do with that. So after all these horrific things he did, after a while I went through the emotional, the trauma hits you when you detach. I've talked about the emotional crash when you leave a narcissist and what to do to prevent that, being to like building emotional capacity, physical capacity to be able to cope, because there can be a very big emotional crash. And for me there was, especially because I went through a really traumatizing, he put me through a very traumatizing situation, when I left. And it was devastation. It was very, very hard. I ended up without a home again. I ended up, being bullied in the community, had to move. It was just like absolutely terrible. Didn't even have the time to heal safely. I had to fight, it was very, very difficult. And he also knew I'd already been through one cycle of this, so just disgusting. But they pick on the vulnerable, what they perceive to be vulnerable, but actually they have no idea. It's just a predator. But anyway, I did then go through a short period of bartering, of trying to reach out, of trying to beg for him back, right? So that is a natural response. We feel a lot of shame and guilt about that. It's very confusing for us. It's very sad for us. But just know it's part of a natural grief process. It's not unusual. It's a standard grieving process. And it's just because the shock of when we leave and our life not looking better, and sometimes there can be this moment where it looks a bit worse, right? And that can feel very intense, and so we want to go back to that dream. And also now we will try, and we're so traumatized, we're trying to grab at it. That's a trauma response, right? So just know it's part of it and you can walk through it. And luckily I didn't stay in that. I knew what it was, and I shut it down, and that was good, but it was hard because the little girl in me was really wanting him back, and I know what that is. I didn't know as much as I knew then as I do now. After that comes a depression stage. Yeah, that's the next stage of grief, which is depression. And you have to know that your body actually needs to go through this process. It's a purge, right? It actually needs to release it. So there's a depression stage where you likely feel very sad. Now, it doesn't have to take a long time. Mine didn't, because I knew how to heal. But like, you don't skip a step in healing. You just manage you put your consciousness and you can accelerate it. But the body still needs to release this. It's like purging, right? It's like a detox. There's a depression stage, and then you'll get to acceptance, and then you'll get to hope. So my sovereign program actually goes through, I do talk about grief in there, but it's only at the end that we start dealing with manifestation, because there's a lot of regulation and processing you have to do first to be, you know what I mean? And then when you get more healed, you'll find that the grief process doesn't have to be in those stages. It could all be coming at once. One, minute you feel angry, then a minute you feel depressed, but you actually can accelerate it, and I can accelerate my healing. But I understand I'm a human. I understand that healing does not mean I'm never going to be emotional. In fact, my emotions are very important, and they're part of my natural human state, and that's what separates us as humans, that we really are not just instinctive, we're emotional. So knowing how to work with our emotional bodies, not see them as wrong, right? Not thinking healing means I'll never feel an emotion again. No. In fact, I find, and I teach people, the more I'm healed, the deeper I feel. Because I'm not resisting, I'm not in defense of anything, my heart's open. So I get to experience life in such a richer way. But that means all of life. That means when things hurt me, they hurt me deeply. When things light me up, they light me up deeply. But I'm not in any trauma, which means I don't get stuck in anything. And I understand how my body needs to be with emotions to let them pass, right? I'm not stuck. When we're in trauma, we can't process, we can't get relief, we can't move through emotions, which is what's unhealthy, which is why I've got a lot of tools on for this, right? So the thing to know about this is, when you're fully detached, you will ignite your grief. And that's a normal part of it. And if you have any, the thing is not to be confused about that. It's to understand that this is part of my body purging, and what I've got to do is regulate my emotions. There's exercises I've got in here on emotional regulation, psychological regulation, but just to know it's a healthy part of what's going on with me. Even the darkest days in the depression, even when you want to barter and beg for them back and you know it's wrong, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just part of it. But the thing is, you don't really want them back. You've just got to let your body process that emotion of that part of it, right? And you will move into acceptance, and you will move into hope. And if you stick here with me, you'll move into more than hope. You'll move into complete personal power and manifesting your ideal life. So there's a lot on the other side of it. And it doesn't have to take long, but it's also being willing to understand it, be with it, and not make that your only experience. Another thing that I learned and I teach people is I can walk with pain and have a nice coffee and a nice day. It's I don't have to, I know how to be with my emotions, because we get so fixed in our minds and we've been taught to intellectualize things so much that sometimes we think, well, the pain is all that's available to me, and it's not. Yeah? You can be in pain and still snuggle with your pets or your babies, or you know what I mean, your cocoa, whatever. You can still have more than just the pain. And knowing that means you creating these little cracks, these little windows of opportunity for other things to be there too. Not looking to push away the process that's happening, that's natural, because when we do that, we're just doing resistance, and that's not how it works. It slows it all down. It's our resistance and suppression of our emotions a lot of the time that keeps us stuck. So please keep commenting. Please let me know what else you want content on, because I'm really excited to share this stuff with you. It really works. It works so fast, right? And other than that, Sovereign, if you want to join for May, the time is now to join that. Lots of love, guys. I'll speak to you soon.